Okay, we're here with Dean Silvester. Thanks for giving us some time, the current
No worries,
AOY
mate.
champion. Let's talk Somerset. You smashed him there, you won comprehensively. You used quite a different technique than a lot of guys in Australia haven't seen.
Yep.
Can we go over what you actually were using and what it was all about?
Yeah, well in, I think it was December last year, we found a heap of fish in Glenbourne, so different location, whatever else, but similar circumstance. The fish were sitting on the dam wall and they wouldn't respond to any sort of lure, but they were there on probably a 200-metre long stretch of fish, just constant fish the whole way. So when we were fishing that area, a couple of trollers went through and they were catching fish behind us consistently, so we thought we've got to be a way to do the same thing. So we'd, obviously most people have heard about long lining and what it involves, so it's similar to trolling except you're not using your outboard to propel it, so cast it out and just you drive away. I've got 150 yards, so I can drive away 150 yards if I want, and just crank the lure back like you would when you're trolling. So leading up to the Somerset event, it was a tough bite. You could see the fish, same thing, 30 feet. You could see fish everywhere, like lots of people coming here, all good anglers, no one could catch any fish. And we thought, what about trolling, like something different? So we, instead of trolling, we thought, oh, we'll just long line. So we got the biggest bibs we could get. I ran with it's a Muscle Deep 4+, so it's
Jackal Muscle Deep 4+?
Yeah.
Any colour also was working for you that weekend, is that right?
Mate, on the pre-fish, I think I fished here for 4 different times leading up, and I didn't really crack the pattern until the last time I was here, and I had 4 or 5 of these lures in those different colours. I had a gold, had a gill, I think had an AU sort of a colour, and by the end of that day I had none left. They all got busted off by big fish. So once we worked out the pattern, the fish were easy. Like you'd cast out, drive away, you'd get a third of your way into your retrieve and you're on, and because they're 2.5, 3 kilo fish and they're 100 metres away, they're sort of difficult to manage.
Yep.
So we ended up bumping up the gear by the time the event came. So I'm running like it's a 743 rod, which is up to 17 pound. You wouldn't really run that for
17 pound
bass.
Dobbins rod.
Yeah.
Bait caster, and you got the XO reel as well.
Yep.
What pound line do you run in there?
Mate, in the braid, that's resin sheller. So it's sort of got, as the name suggests, it's got a resin outer shell on the top of the braid.
Yep. It's
really tough and abrasive, so I only run the 16 pound on that. I find it's heavy enough, and it's thin for its breaking strain.
Yep.
So you can, it doesn't affect getting the lure to run deep. Whereas if you ran 20 pound or something like that, you'd end up, it holds the lure up, so to speak.
Course,
so
yep.
By running the 16 and that lure, I can smash the bottom in 32 feet when I long line with that.
And you've got fluorocarbon leader on there as well?
Yep, so that's Yamatoyo as well.
Yep.
And depending where you are, but in this event I ran 12 pound.
12 pound, quite a heavy leader.
Yeah, so it's same thing. Like what typically happens is when they hit these, it's a reaction bite.
Yep.
And they're hitting it head first, and so they end up with this all tangled up under their head, but this other treble's just, it's floating around everywhere.
They're just swiping at it.
They just turn around and just head first straight into it. They don't actually engulf it.
Yep.
So they're just pissed off that this thing's down there in their face.
Yep.
And what I found, it didn't matter how big the stump. I think some of the stumps might have been about so big, but they swim up and brush their face against it. And this free swinging one, you're stuck.
Okay, you'd lose it.
So yeah, that's why I went through so many lures and upgraded the gear to the heavier stuff.
Okay, we caught up with Dean earlier, and he took us through exactly how he did the long lining.
The idea is to drive past where I think the fish are. I cast the lure on the deep side of the ledge, then drive back past it, probably let out about 100 metres of line. So theory is by the time my crankbait gets down to depth of about 35 feet, I'm right where the active fish are. And the theory behind the crankbait is that they have to either eat it or get out of the way of it. So even on shut down fish, it's in their face and there's a decision got to be made. So you find when you use subtle baits, plastics or something like that, if they're active and they're biting, that's all well and good. But if they're not, you got to use a reaction style or something similar that forces him into some form of response. The reason behind, well, another reason behind long lining is you can't get a conventional lure really to dive to 30 something feet where these fish are sitting. So the more line you have out, the less of an angle and the longer time your lure has to reach the depth where they're sitting.
Check us out at bassaustralia.com.au.